Hello, Building Industry Association of San Diego. This is Shannon, and I am with the BIA Talks podcast. We are on season 2, episode 8, and we have a really good one for you today called The Intersection. Our very own president and CEO, Amy Fawcett's going to be talking with Clarissa Falcon, who is the California Transportation Chair. That is a mouthful. But before we get started, we want to thank this episode's sponsor, Hunsaker and Associates. I'm going to read from notes to make sure I don't miss anything. They've been members since 1994, so 32 years. That's awesome. They've been shaping San Diego's skyline and suburbs since 1987. Experience matters, especially in a city where the rules are always changing. Hunsaker and Associates San Diego has been a staple of the San Diego building industry for over 39 years. Longstanding BIA partner and sponsor, thank you very much. Whether it's master plan communities or complex infill, they provide planning, engineering, mapping, and survey that turns constraints into opportunities. So once again, thank you, Hunsaker and Associates. And if you want to find them, you can go to hunsakersd.com. With that, we're going to dive into our episode, and we hope you enjoy it. Ready?
Okay. Hello, BIA. This is Amy Fawcett here, your BIA president and CEO. I'm excited to bring San Diego's own legend and California Transportation Chair, Clarissa Falcon, here to podcast with us today. We are increasingly hearing about the intersection between housing and transportation policy. A decade ago, the state and feds started to be more intentional about where housing was built and ensuring that the infrastructure for both was going to create the communities that were envisioned. Today, that remains the case, but with some interesting nuances that will likely continue to evolve in policy and practice. So first, welcome to our podcast, Clarissa.
Well, thank you, Amy. It's wonderful to be here, and I just want to let you know that I am an FOA and FOB. What is that?
What is that? Yes.
Friend of Amy, friend of BIA.
Oh, thank you. So I'm an FOC. Friend of Clarissa.
Right. There you go. See, we've created a new lexicon already within 2 minutes of our podcast.
Well, it's been years in the making. Let's be honest.
Decades,
yes,
honestly.
We've known each other for a very, very long time.
Yes.
So have the utmost respect for you, and so glad that you are the chair of the California Transportation Commission.
Well, thank you. I've got
condolences or congratulations.
I got a lot of congrats and a lot of condolences, and depending on the day and what the issue is, I'll take them both.
Well, we are lucky that you are there as
Thank
San Diegans, and the CTC is lucky to have you as well.
I appreciate it. It's been wonderful.
So tell us about yourself. Who are you professionally and personally?
Well, professionally, I've been in the intersection. We're going to talk a lot about intersections with government, with nonprofit, infrastructure, community engagement, and all of the issues that run the gamut on all of those areas. And as you know, being kind of from the same background, we're sort of generalists, but we really get to know our craft in really delving into, especially when we get into projects, right? You get to be kind of an expert really quickly. You have to be, especially when you're trying to harmonize the interests of the public, the interests of business and development, which is so important, or else we don't get any
Right.
exciting projects and needed development done. And then you have the elected officials and everyone in between, and so you have a lot of interests that we have to manage and be able to get folks to talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been in those spaces where I have had to really, and I've tried to use the word harmonize rather than balance, because there's always going to be tipping one way or the other.
Harmonize interest within transportation and
You
government and the public.
Right,
Wow, yes.
right.
That is
I know.
a skill. That is a specific skill, and you do have it.
Well, thank you. It's an aspiring skill and something that I've hoped and have really intended to kind of model and be part of coalitions. It hasn't been easy. And
I'm sure.
obviously, we have to work across aisles and interests, and we don't always remain friends.
Mm, that's
Um,
the unfortunate part.
right, and we
Yeah.
don't have to be that
Yeah.
way,
Agree.
right? We can be at different political parties or ideologies, but when you're dealing with trying to do something for the public, you kind of have to leave some of those dogmas
Yeah.
aside. And I know I I'm not in the majority. And
Well,
I
and
think
you're,
maybe that's why it's legendary,
yeah.
because you and I have had really interesting
Yes.
conversations where we aren't always in agreement, but we come to some some understanding or agreement in
Mm-hmm.
where we want to go, the intention. We want something done. And that's something that I've always appreciated with you and others like us, is that we're not going to oppose each other for the sake of opposing each other because
Right.
we're on certain sides.
Yeah.
We want to get something done, right? We're
Right.
doers.
Doers, pragmatists.
And I feel like we need to do more of that.
Absolutely agree.
So professionally, I've been in really interesting spaces, many years in the legislature, and then working for economic development at the Regional Economic Development Corporation. And then I started my own consulting firm, Falcon Strategies, and I've been doing that for 16 years, and in between doing all these interesting nonprofit and civic board and commission work.
How does one become appointed to the CTC? And how did you become chair? Did
What's
everybody just,
under that
were you the
hood?
only one that showed up to that meeting?
You know, um, as you know, Amy, it's going back to coalition building and trying to get some things done and working with all sides. That's a really important skill, as you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I have to say, developing that reputation is really important. And you'll be surprised that it's really hard to find folks. It's, you know, few and far between. I'm not trying to toot my own horn,
Right.
but I was approached because it was really difficult to find the right fit. And at the time, Senator Christine Kehoe, who was
Mm-hmm.
one of my sheroes, was on the CTC, and she was done. I mean, she had done her public work through her career, and
Mm-hmm.
and then after having an illustrious legislative career, was asked by then pro tem Tony Atkins to serve on the CTC, which she did for many, many years. But she's like, "Hey, girl, I'm done." And so pro tem Atkins and Jennifer Lassar, her partner, were feverishly looking for someone to just you know take it up. And I had worked quite a bit with her and her staff, when she was on the council and in the legislature, and she was a big fan of my former boss, Senator Denise Duchenne, and actually employed many of Denise's staff to be part of hers. And so she had a lot of trust with how Denise and her staff worked, and I was deputy chief of staff, and she knew
Mm-hmm.
me quite well. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, Clarissa, she's worked on this, that, and the other, and she's on the Circulate San Diego board and all of these other organizations, including the BIA and economic development corporations and et cetera." And so she called me up on a Friday and said, "Clarissa, I hate to bother you." I'm like, "You're not bothering me, pro tem."
Until you found out what it was.
Right. Like, I'm in a pickle. I need to find somebody really good.
I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Exactly. And so I had to give her a weekend to think about it.
Oh.
And as you know, you don't tell the pro tem that you're going to think
Yes.
about it, but I understood what was being asked of me. And if I wanted to do a good job, and I shared this with her, if I wanted to do a good job and do right by you, I had to talk to my family, talk to my employees, and say, "Hey, this is going to take some time, and are you guys good with it?" And they're like, "Well, yeah." If it's gonna, if it's gonna help and if you're gonna help the region,
Hmm.
sure. And so I said yes.
That's good.
First thing on Monday.
First thing Monday. Okay, well you were on time.
I was on time. I
You
will
told her
not
I
let.
only needed a weekend, and you did it.
Yes, exactly. I
Isn't that how women
discerned.
do things?
We
We
get it,
say we're going to do
we
it.
get it done on time. Give us something to build.
Yes, we'll do it.
We'll do it. And so I really prepared. I knew that I was not going to be the most technically proficient person when it
Hmm.
comes to transportation. I knew enough to be
Dangerous.
dangerous,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Understood the policy, but I wanted to understand the dynamics.
Hmm.
Because as you know, Amy, it's not necessarily about the technical
Right.
prowess. It is who are the players. And
Weighing the
so
facts and weighing the stakeholders' opinions and
exactly.
whether it's actually can get done or not. The practicality of projects.
Right.
Hmm.
And I wanted to understand, even dialing into how people interact with each other. So I went to archived videos and I actually watched quite a few
Oh, wow.
hearings.
Before or after you said yes? Oh, must have
Uh,
been after.
both.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly after actually to prepare. And so you'd appreciate this. I wanted to see the interaction between CTC and staff, the commissioners and staff. I wanted to see the interaction between commissioners and the regional stakeholders and the other state agencies, meaning the California Secretary of State. I mean, sorry, Secretary of Transportation sits on the dais with
Hmm.
us. I wanted to see that interaction with the California Director of Caltrans, right?
Hmm.
And the advocates, how they interact with the public. And so understanding those dynamics helped me feel prepared at least to engage with the cast of characters. And as you know, in order to be effective, right,
Yeah.
it's understanding the people that are engaged in, with the commission and with any
Yeah.
governing body, right? That's
Yeah.
what we do.
I mean, government is the business of the people, and it's a very
Yeah.
human business. And so I think that's brilliant of you to, and not a lot of people would do that before in preparation of sitting on a commission or a board or even running for office to actually see how people interact, what are the personalities,
Hmm.
what are the actually authority of each of those positions,
Right.
and what's the authority of the actual commission itself. Um,
Exactly.
so maybe back up just for the purposes of those that aren't really versed in the California Transportation Commission. What's what's the role and responsibility of CTC?
Sure. Well, in a nutshell, we program and allocate all the gas tax funding
Hmm.
that's collected by the state and the federal funding as well. And so that all is funneled through the California Transportation Commission. We don't program all of them,
Hmm.
but we do allocate
Okay.
the lion's share of all of that funding. We do have discretionary authority over certain programs, including SB1. And
Hmm.
so SB1 is the landmark legislation that was passed in 2017. And basically, the charge was to ensure that our system was in continued good repair, right?
Our freeway systems.
Exactly. Our
So
highways, yes.
freeways, highways,
Our roads,
bridges,
streets.
roads
Hmm.
that are
Exactly.
within state of California's jurisdiction, or is
Correct.
this okay?
Well, and also local
Local
jurisdictions, and
jurisdictions.
so there's a local partnership program, and
Hmm.
so the city of San Diego, for instance, applied for, I think it was $10 million for improving a roundabout on one of their streets, and it was a huge deal because it was a safety issue,
Okay.
and so that was through Senate Bill 1's local partnership program. There is so much alphabet soup in in what I do. Because usually I'll say it's LPP and TSEP and SCCP. I mean, it's ABC and EFG, right? There's so many
Yeah,
programs
I
with
think
so many
people don't
acronyms.
always understand that government is an industry in
Yeah.
itself with its acronyms and its processes and procedures and regulations and everything even amongst itself as an industry.
It really is, and kind of a science in itself, just to even come up with these terms
Yeah.
that accurately describes the kinds of projects that are being funded and what types of projects can be
Hmm.
funded. And so there's a lot. There's STIP, State Transportation Infrastructure Program. There's the SHOP. That's the State Highway Operation and Preservation Program. So that's the big, huge pot
Hmm.
of money that essentially ensures that our highways are clean. So
Hmm.
whenever you see the orange shirts that are cleaning, be nice, slow down. It's all about safety, right? And we want to continue to ensure that our workers can work safely and come home to their families. It's a huge thing for us that we always, unfortunately have to not
Remind people.
unfortunately, but yes, we have to remind people, and every year we memorialize our workers that gave their lives
Mm.
for the service of ensuring that our transportation system is safe and adequate for
Hmm.
us to
Yeah.
travel on. And then, of course, we try to incorporate in our guidelines, the legislative intent of the legislature and the governor, meaning, equity. For
Hmm.
instance, I know this is probably I don't know, a controversial thing, but something called cacti. I always
Oh,
thought, what is that? Is that
what is that?
cactus? I had to have staff describe this for me. It's climate action plan for transportation infrastructure. So
Oh,
it's incorporating, that's the VMTs, the
right.
vehicle miles traveled policies, and trying to incorporate clean air
Hmm.
strategies into how we choose projects. So it's not the metric,
Right.
but obviously it helps boost up the competitiveness of the competitive part of the funding pots that we have. So as that when you have a big pot of money, a lot of it is formulaic, so it's based on
Right.
population and other metrics, and so that's automatically allocated to jurisdictions,
Hmm.
right? But then you also have the competitive. And so the competitive is what we have direct authority over.
Okay. So a good segue into the next question. So historically, um, it's been felt or believed that Los Angeles and the Bay Area gets an enormous amount of state dollars with anything, but specifically with transportation. Do you, and San Diego being kind of the quiet, sleepy town that just happens to be also the eighth largest city in the country, but that's okay.
Second largest in the state.
Second largest in
Hmm.
the state, which a lot of people, that's a fact, a data point that I don't think people quite understand, that the city of San Diego is the second largest city in the state of California.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel that that's still the case, that certain areas within the state are getting a disproportionate amount of dollars, or do you feel that that's changed and kind of smoothed out?
This is where you're fishing.
No, it was
But
in
that's
the
why I'm
script.
here. That's why I'm here, Amy. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Um, I'll say it this way. There's quite a few mega projects. And yes, there's some in the Bay Area, in the billions of dollars, and then you've got mega projects in LA, and there's an argument there. They're building big because they're housing big events
Right.
coming up this year and in 28, and
Hmm.
so you bet they're using that as leverage. Like, hey, we need to get this done. I have to say, in San Diego, and it, we have evolved quite a bit, as you know,
Yes.
politically, and that right there is, I think, a connection there,
Hmm.
right, with how things politically have have evolved. And with that is, how do we look at the region? What are what's our appetite for doing big things,
Mhm.
right? And with big things, we need a lot of infrastructure.
Yep.
And I have to say, in San Diego, we've been very thoughtful about, for the most part, about, what we want to build and what we actually are able to build. And at the CTC, California Transportation Commission, um, we're looking at it more and more. Uh, Not necessarily how exciting the projects are. All projects are exciting
Mhm.
in one way or the other, but what is their ability to fund, to get the project developed, right? Do all the environmental, and then deliver on what you say you're going
Mhm.
to build.
Right.
And that's not always a certainty, right? Just because you go for funding, it's all about the project delivery. And I can't tell you how many times we see folks are amazed when they look at our agenda. 170 items, really? Well, a lot of them are time extensions, right?
Right.
Because we have a time clock on when you can spend money. We have supplementary requests for additional funding.
Mhm.
Or we have, oh, you program funding, but we're not able to deliver on them. And so they get reprogrammed. So just because a project gets funding,
Right.
it's all about when is it allocated and when is it ready to go for construction.
And sometimes they get CTC only does partial funding,
Correct.
and the actual project applicant, whatever municipality or local government that is, isn't able to close the gap for the entire project.
And we're seeing, we're trying to get to yes.
Mhm.
We want projects. It keeps our fourth largest economy in the world moving.
Yeah.
Our businesses need projects.
Mhm.
Our workers need projects. Our economy needs projects. We need the projects to connect to each other, connect to services, connect to goods, all of that. But you need to have projects that can line up how it gets paid, right?
Yes.
How it gets built. Do you have land, right? The right of way, the easements. I would have to say, second, or maybe equally as challenging, um, as cobbling funding together, is
Mhm.
getting the right of way.
Right?
And once you get the right of way, right,
Yeah.
you can actually look at highways. And this is one of the things that sort of frustrates me sometimes with certain advocate groups, is that a highway is a highway right now, but
Mhm.
in the future, you can retool, reimagine it based on, where how people want to travel.
Mhm.
Will they always want to be on cars? Maybe not,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you talk to our children, they'd rather not be driving,
Well, mine
right?
does.
Yours does, mine doesn't. They're all about,
As long as I'm paying for the gas, we're good.
there it is. Well, there it is. Or where they can charge their car.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
talking about the connection between infrastructure and transportation and home building,
Mhm.
right? And so you have a lot of in San Diego. There's been a big push and has been deliverables on infill, and then there's always the talk about you know expanding out into the county and in the unincorporated area.
Yeah.
What is it that and infrastructure is needed, right? You can't just build something, a housing project, without having the infrastructure, right? Whether it's freeways, roads, public transportation. How would the home building community be able to contribute to the discussion around the transportation and infrastructure at the level of the California Transportation Commission, excuse me?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Um, and
Is
this
it a
is
local? I mean,
it really is a regional, engaging in the regional planning effort.
mhm,
Um, it's really important because they're one of our most important funding partners. You think the state is powerful. It's really the
Yeah.
regional agencies, and they come up with the projects, and they work very closely with Caltrans, our district, and our
Mhm.
district offices at Caltrans. And so, you know, when we're looking at funding, particularly for our state transportation infrastructure program, or STIP for short, we look at all of the regional transportation plans,
Mhm.
right? Um, our projects are based on what the regions are bringing to us, and so engaging in the planning effort whenever the planning agency, in our case it's the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG, and they're engaged in updating their regional transportation plans. I am really trying not to say RTP. That's where, part of my pun, but where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
That's where you really engage, like, where are the land use opportunities, right, to build? And are there existing corridors?
Mhm.
How can we optimize the corridors? Now more than ever in transportation, we're trying not to build corridors for the sake of building corridors.
Right.
Now we want to really connect the land
You're not
uses.
doing build it and they will come.
Right. We're
Like a
not we're not building that many
I don't
freeways
wanna say like a
anymore.
bullet train or anything like that, but
Thank goodness that's not our authority. Um, you'll want to ride it though
a
when
bullet
it's
train to
done.
nowhere.
Someday past our lifetime, it will
Okay,
can
yes. It'll be something will happen.
something.
Yes.
But yeah, we're being really mindful of where we put our infrastructure, and
Mhm.
ensuring that it's responding to what the land use demands are,
Right.
where the people want to be.
So you're saying, that old saying, "Tiponio, all politics is local," right?
It
But
really
it's not
is.
even just politics, it's the policies that are created at the local levels. So you're saying that that is really the influence of where CTC looks to put its funding and the type of projects.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, we have large state projects, right? We still have the highways,
Right.
and we still have priorities that meet a larger state need.
Mhm.
But for the most part, yes, because it's in the regional level, and in a lot of the regions, not all of them are self-help. And so they have the funding to leverage state and federal funding.
Mhm.
And when you can bring a package like that to the CTC, it shows us, oh, this can be built because they're cobbling the funding. They've got the buy-in from the funding sources. So let's say Otay Mesa East, for instance, which is
Mhm.
being built right now, and probably the biggest project in the region right now that's being built. You have not only
Let me just
Sandag.
back up though for a
Yeah,
second. I don't know
yeah,
if people quite maybe our listeners the how large and how busy that crossing is, Otay Mesa East. I mean, just our
sure.
border alone is the busiest border crossing. Some have said in
Mhm.
North America, some have
Yep.
said in the world. But it is massive the amount of transportation that goes back and forth, whether pedestrian
Mhm.
or
You got it.
vehicles
Right, and trade.
and train.
So we
And the rail.
so freight's it's an important freight corridor in Otay Mesa. And we have a lot of workers that live in Mexico
Mhm.
that cross the border every single day, right? At least twice a day.
Yeah.
And so it is I would say maybe one of the 5,
Mhm.
right? If not one of the top 3
That you would consider
most.
the 5 statewide projects.
Well, no, busiest,
Busy
port
oh,
of
sorry,
entry.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah, but it is one of the biggest. Yes, it is in the state, one of the biggest, infrastructure projects, because we've built a new highway,
Mhm.
SR 11, that's connecting
Right.
SR 905 and Otay Mesa, which will connect to the new port of entry, which is about a mile and a half roughly from the current Otay Mesa port of entry, which is very, very impacted. Sometimes trucks are waiting anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day to cross northbound.
Wow.
Right? And so that impacts not only, the driver and, and their exhaust
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, but think of the idled trucks, spewing all of that,
Mm-hmm.
the emissions into the air. And so and so decades ago, and the Regional Chamber of Commerce and South County EDCs, all of these, and Sandag and Caltrans, Gary Gallegos at the time, who was the director, I think, of Sandag, contemplated we need to add another port of entry
Mm-hmm.
because Otay Mesa and San Ysidro are just
Yeah.
impacted. And so it's taken, what, 20, 25 years to get to this point. And you're not talking about just one government, right? We're
Right.
talking two states, state of California, state of Baja, and then you've got the federal governments of the United States and Mexico all involved with this very delicate.
4 very amazingly efficient entities.
Sure. Right. 5.
5, sorry. 5 major efficient entities.
Right. I didn't even talk about Implan in Tijuana. Right. So you have all these governments, and then you have, and it's a toll. It's going to be a toll facility. And so we've had to create a very delicate covenant with all these
Wow.
governments, like who gets what, right? Of the toll revenue to help
Right.
staff, to help pay for the infrastructure. It is such a delicate project. And so I would say it's been probably, top 3 projects in the
Yeah.
state, priorities for the state to get done.
And so as the CTC chair, like, how much of your time is spent on do you get pulled more into projects being the San Diego native?
All of it.
And but it's just all distributed. Your time is just spent on everything.
Yes.
A little bit here, a little bit there.
Well, I've personally had to make sure that, things are moving with our projects. I mean, and Losan's going to be another one, the Los Angeles to San Diego. Is that what it's
Yes.
Losan, the corridor
That's
on Del Mar.
that's the railroad.
On the Del Mar Bluffs, and so that's going to be a huge mega project, and what to do with the realignment, because we can't keep putting Band-Aids on the bluffs.
Right.
So what does that look like? Right.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a huge political and community public effort, right? And the federal government has already, put some skin in the game, as well as the state of California, along with the region. And so, but it's not going to be enough to realign the track. It's going to be a big project.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm always
talk about having securing the land.
Right. Are we going to put it in the east? Are we going to bore a hole?
Yeah, right. Why don't we do it under the ocean floor?
Well, that would be fun. The channel, Del Mar channel. So, of course, I'm always looking out for our region. But because it's a state commission,
right,
I'm involved with the 99 in the Central Valley, YOLO 80, and near Sacramento. And so Last Chance Grade on the 37, I think it is, in Northern California, right? I didn't even know where Redding is. I'm right, Tulare County. I've learned about all of these places in this state from being on this commission. And I have to say, no two regions are the same. Everybody has different needs, right? Some of the approaches are similar. But the needs, the communities, what they contribute to the economy, how they serve their community members, they're all different. And so they have different transportation needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As does your hometown.
Oh my
Here's
goodness.
San Diego.
Yes, yeah, I'm here for it. Throw me more projects.
So we talked a lot about projects. What is the one thing that just gets you excited when you're working on CTC?
Well, so
or
to
about CTC?
yeah, going back to your question about how I got to be chair and the preparation just to be a commissioner, is it really is I'm very people oriented,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, and I really care about how people work together.
Yes.
And for me, it was, how do I cultivate a culture of they don't always have to like each other and agree with each other, but there has to be a level of trust or else you can't get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I really wanted to do is to ensure, a culture where people felt like they could lead and assert themselves and try to get the best product and the best out of people, agencies, right? And
Yeah.
as you know, Amy, right? One of the things that is challenging to get anything done is silos,
Oh my gosh. Yes, they're everywhere.
right?
They're everywhere. Yeah,
And everybody's
especially in
protecting
a
their
polarized political environment, which is
yeah,
everywhere also, the silos are just so much more entrenched.
now more than ever.
Yes.
And so, and I think the public feels that. And I
Mhm.
think that's part of the frustration with government is when government is like constantly at each other,
Yes.
even within a government body,
Mhm.
right? Certain departments don't talk to each other, and it's frustrating, especially I'm sure for your members, right? Trying to get a
Oh, yeah.
project, and I've worked with some of your members trying to get a project, and you've got to talk to the right arm, but the left arm won't align with what the right arm's doing,
Mhm.
right? And so, and then we have to sort of kind of
Untangle it.
right, untangle that. And then we try to, get elected officials to kind of help sort of
Mhm.
shake it loose a little bit, right? And so that experience, I brought that to the CTC, and how do we work best with staff? Commissioners to staff. How do we work with our regional partners? How do
Mhm.
we work with our fellow state agencies, right? And and we're not always aligned.
Yes.
But there's also ways that we can, you know, sometimes we got to play bad cop, good cop, right?
Mhm.
But there's an understanding there, and um, and again, it's in the spirit of all right. Well, let's just get it done,
Right.
right? I'll play bad cop sometimes. That
Mhm.
is fine, right?
Yep.
We're the big bad strict CTC with all of our guidelines, right? But we try to get to yes as best we can because we know that jurisdictions and regions need the projects,
Yes.
right? And so it's for me exciting to see people working together, even though it's not pretty getting to to a handshake. But I mean, if there is an intent to get something done,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We'll get it done. So that's exciting. I'm excited about like how we incorporate technology in
Yes.
transportation. How do we do better modeling? How do we do better predictive modeling on where we put our infrastructure? What's the optimal place? And how do we
I hear
ensure
there's this thing called AI. Just kidding.
I might have some interest in that as well.
Okay.
Um, and And how do we make our more importantly, our transportation infrastructure safer? And there's an
Yeah.
opportunity through technology such as AI, right? Um, what are the new ways of moving people, services, and goods, right? From A to B,
Yeah.
right? And that's going to be technology. But of course, how do we gather the data? And that's not always apples
Yeah.
to apples, and so
Yes.
that is something that we have
And
been
it's a lot complex.
contemplating.
It's a lot more complex than people realize too.
It really
Yeah.
is. Right.
Getting people from point A to point B, getting goods from point A to point B. Then you have how do you do it? What are you driving? How's that impacting? What's the weight? What's the concrete? What are the material costs? What is labor costs? What is land costs? And they're all moving targets.
Right.
Yeah.
See, we're in the business of development as well.
Mm-hmm.
You get it, right?
Well, we as home builders need infrastructure.
Right. And the way we get to the infrastructure is very similar, right?
Yep.
We have to do some community engagement. We have to do coupling together coalitions. We have to make sure the government jurisdictions are for this, right? And there's the environmental, there's the
entitlement process,
entitlements.
engineering.
We have CEQA process as well. And then you have to, then there's the contracting, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, there's going to be change orders, and there's going to be, what kind of project delivery method are we going to use on this project? And then, right? And then it's time extensions and this and that and the other, right? So
happens everywhere.
We're kind of the same business in a way. Finally, what's exciting but also daunting, and just to be really honest, is how do we continue to sustain our transportation investments into the future? We have relied very heavily on the gas tax.
Yeah.
And as you know, and I'm a electric vehicle driver myself, and I know I'm not contributing as much as, let's say, folks that are working that drive combustion engines, right? The typical
gas-driven
cars, right? Exactly. And a lot of them are folks that can't afford EVs, so there's an equity issue there.
Yeah.
And so we, unfortunately, kind of tested this out regionally, maybe a little bit of, maybe got a little bit ahead of ourselves with looking at a road vehicle.
Vehicle miles traveled.
A road user charge.
VMT.
Road user charge.
The BIA's favorite topic, not.
Well, it'll continue to be a conversation, let me tell you.
Yes, we are wanting to have that conversation.
But we have to have an honest conversation, however, about how we pay for our transportation, because relying only on the gas tax is not going to sustain our appetite for good infrastructure, and we deserve it. And it's not just the highways. People do want. I know this may not have complete consensus, but people do like transit and biking to places and walking to places. And so how do we sustain, that kind of modality? And so there is more and more talk. There's been talk for some time about what that looks like, whether it be a per mile charge or whether it be per kilowatt or per whatever it is. We have to be honest about how we're going to continue to pay for our system, not only to build our system, but to maintain it, right? To ensure that's in a good repair. And so, I mean, why is it exciting for me? Because it's the hard thing. And we do hard things.
We like hard things. Yes.
We like to do the difficult things. And so can't let what do you call it? A crisis go to waste. So
exactly.
You got to
use it.
You got to come up with some interesting solutions, and so I'm all for it.
Yeah. It's just to wrap up on the gas tax and vehicle miles traveled or whatever the alternative is. As you had referred to earlier, there's always these different moving parts, and I think where from a home building industry perspective is that we all depend on infrastructure, right?
Absolutely.
However, the concern is that VMT, vehicle miles traveled, if required of a development, all those costs build up and impacts the performa, which then impacts the cost of that housing unit. So I'm just saying that all of these solutions are always going to have some type of impact in one way or form.
A trade-off.
Right? And so we have to decide, what that trade-off looks like, right? As everything gets weighed. So yes. Yep.
I agree. I mean, what kind of, what sting can you handle?
Right.
Because there is going to be some pain. But we need to continue to house our people. We need to have different products of
Right.
of
Different
of,
products of
of
housing.
housing. And we can get into it,
Yeah.
with like, well, folks that don't want certain types of housing in their neighborhood. I mean, I totally get it. I mean,
We get the NIMBY
we got
versus
the
the
NIMBYs, the
YIMBY versus the
YIMBYs.
environmentalists versus
Sure.
labor, organized labor,
Right. And elected officials that may or may not be in
Yeah.
favor of more housing in their area.
Well,
Maybe they will.
they all
Some
say they are pro-housing, but sometimes we have to wonder.
they are in the
Yes.
on the
Words
largers.
versus actions. Yes.
Oh, we could go
Oh, we could go
for
on
a
and on and on.
long time on
Yes,
that.
this is where Clarissa and I go and have wine or tequila.
You just name when and where.
Yes. Podcast. BIA
Podcast.
podcast.
That's a different podcast for
Yes.
a different time.
Well, Clarissa, thank you so much for your time today. I know
Thank
you're very
you.
busy, and I have to tell you, San Diego is very lucky to have you on the California Transportation Commission, but the California Transportation Commission is lucky to have you.
I appreciate that.
And we thank you so much for taking time and having this honest conversation with us and sharing it with our home building industry of San Diego
Well,
and maybe others.
well, thank you. I'm very honored to have been asked. I don't know about the legend status, but I mean, you and
To us, you
I,
are.
thank you, come from similar backgrounds where we get our best work done behind the scenes.
Yes.
But yes, sometimes we kind of have to go out there in the spotlight and talk turkey. I totally get it. And share some
And
of
have
the
that
inside
public-
baseball.
Yes, that public discussion. Public discussion.
Well,
thank you.
It's wonderful to be here, and thank you to your members for inviting me.
Thank you.
This
Thank you.
podcast.
With that, it's a wrap on this episode. Be on the lookout for episode 9, All Things PCBC 2026. Goodbye, everyone, and hope you have a great day.